All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you once again with this video titled Forever, Forever, Ever, Forever, Ever. And of course, this particular video is titled based off of the famous line from Andre 3000 from the song Miss Jackson, right? Now, this particular video is not about the song per se, but I feel like this was this title was appropriate for this video, okay? Because this particular video is actually going to be based off of 2 verses in the book of Jeremiah, okay? And it's going to be based off of Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12 and Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4, okay? And when you actually look at those 2 verses, you'll understand why I actually titled this particular video the way that I did, okay? And both of those verses, you have the phrase forever in it, okay? And what you're going to find out is, you might run into a scoffer who will use both of those verses to say that there's a contradiction in the Bible, and you'll see what I'm saying here in a minute, okay? But we're actually gonna go into the verses, get the understanding, and show that there's no contradiction there, okay? There are no contradictions in the Bible, period, okay? There are only people who are walking contradictions. But, and I say that about people who are scoffers, okay? I'm not talking about, sincere brothers and sisters who just may not understand the verses, okay? But, you have scoffers who will, cherry pick verses, without any understanding and say that it's a contradiction, okay? And there's no contradictions in the Bible. Like I said, there's only people who are walking contradictions, okay? But anyway, without further ado, let's actually get into the scriptures and let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? So let's get right into it. This is Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12, and it reads, "Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, Return, thou backsliding Israel, saith Yahweh. And I will not cause mine anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, saith Yahweh. And I will not keep anger forever." Okay? So when you look at the end of this verse, it says, "And I will not keep anger forever." Correct? It says he will not do that, right? So make a mental note of that. In fact, I'm gonna put the next verse right here on the same slide, okay? So you can actually see both verses together, because in Jeremiah 3 and 12, like we see here, the Most High Yahweh says he will not keep anger forever, okay, concerning the children of Israel, right? So now let's take a look at Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. And here we have it, and it reads, "And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever." Okay? So as we see here, in the end of the verse, what does it say? It says, "For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever." Right? So when you look at Jeremiah 17 and verse 4 and compare it to Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12 above, one might say that it seems like a contradiction. Because in Jeremiah 17 and 4, it's pretty much saying that the Most High Yahweh will have an anger towards us that's going to burn forever. right? It says he will. But when you read Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12, it says he will not keep anger forever, right? So again, here comes the scoffers. But here's the thing. This is where studying comes into play, okay? Scholarship, okay? Going into the actual languages that the scriptures were actually originally written in order to actually get the understanding. Because as we know, the actual understanding of anything can get lost in translation, okay? So now let's actually go to the blue letter, and we're going to do a side by side of each verse in the blue letter, okay? So moving forward to the next slide, this is both verses in the blue letter, and they're both side by side, okay, as we can see. And you see we have the concordance numbers for the different words, right? So when you go to the end of both verses, of course, you see the phrase forever. But notice something interesting when looking at both of these phrases, forever. When you look at the phrase forever in Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12, there's only a concordance number for the word ever, right? But if you look to the side at Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4, yes, you have a concordance number for the word ever, but right in the middle of the phrase forever, you have a concordance number for the word for. So there's emphasis placed on the word for in this particular verse, but the same is not done for Jeremiah chapter 3 and 12. There's no concordance number in the middle of the phrase forever in Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12. There's no emphasis placed on the word for. So this alone should let us know that there's a difference in both of these phrases forever in both of these verses. There's a difference here, okay? And as we move forward, we're going to point out what the difference is, okay? Because the phrase is not, even though it's the same phrase, there's a different meaning to it, okay? When you actually put that concordance number in the middle and you put emphasis on the word for, there's a difference there, okay? So just to reiterate what I've already said, when you look up this term forever in the Hebrew, okay, this term forever is really based upon the context, okay? And just looking at this, the translators understood this as well, okay? So when you look at this phrase in the Hebrew, this phrase forever in the Hebrew, whenever you see that concordance number in between there, when there's emphasis placed on the word for, okay, that indicates a difference, okay? And we're going to point that out right now. All right, let's point out the difference, okay? So first, let's deal with Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12, right? Where it says that he will not keep anger forever. And in this verse, as we see, when you look at the term forever, there's only emphasis really placed on the word ever, okay? Which is that Strong's H5769, okay? So now let's deal with the phrase forever in regards to Jeremiah 3 and 12, where he said he will not keep anger forever. Okay, let's get to it. All right, so this is the concordance number for the word forever in Jeremiah 3 and 12. Okay, where he said he will not keep anger forever. Okay, now this is Strong's H5769, and it's the Hebrew word olam or alam, right? So now let's scroll down a bit, and here is the outline of biblical usage. And it reads: long duration, antiquity, futurity, forever, ever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual, old, ancient world. Then it goes on to say ancient time, long time of past. Then it goes on to say of future. It says forever, always, continuous, existence, perpetual, everlasting, indefinite, or unending future, eternity. Okay, so when we see this in Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12, where there's no emphasis placed on the word for, okay, when we see that, when he said he will not have anger forever, we see that this literally means forever when you look at the definitions, okay? Especially that last definition, it says eternity, okay? So the Most High Yahweh, in that particular context, is letting us know that he's not going to have anger against the children of Israel forever or for eternity. Okay, he's not going to have a never-ending anger for the children of Israel in that particular context. Okay, based upon the outline of biblical usage. Okay, so now let's go back to the side by side and let's take a look at Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. Okay. So remember, we already dealt with Jeremiah 3 and 12. As we see here in Jeremiah 3 and 12, there's no concordance number between the phrase forever. Okay, there's no emphasis placed on the word for in this particular verse, which indicates what? That this is a literal forever. It's eternity. Okay, so now let's go to Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4, where there is a concordance number between the phrase forever, and let's see what that indicates. Let's see if it's the same thing or the same context as Jeremiah 3 and 12, which meant eternity. Let's see if it's the same context or not, because in Jeremiah 17 and 4, what does it say? It says that we, the children of Israel, have kindled a fire in Yahweh's anger, which shall burn forever. Okay, it's saying it will burn forever, that anger. Okay, so now let's get the context. Seeing that there's a difference here, there's an emphasis placed on the word for. Okay, I hope everybody is following me, and I'm hoping, being clear on the way I'm explaining this. Okay, I'm trying to go as slow as possible. Okay, but here we have it. This is the concordance number that's right in between the phrase forever when dealing with Jeremiah 17 and 4. Okay, and it's the Strong's concordance number H5704, and it's the Hebrew word ad or odd, right? So now let's scroll up a bit, and here is the outline of biblical usage, okay? And at the top we see preposition, and it reads, as far as, even to, until, up to, while, as far as. Okay, moving forward, it says of space. It says as far as, up to, even to. Do you see there's a difference here? Okay, when you look at the phrase forever in this context, when they place an emphasis on the word for, when they put that concordance number in the middle of the phrase forever, it's looking like that it's not a literal forever. There's a specific time frame when it's going to come to an end. That's why you're seeing things like as far as or up to. Okay, but continuing on, let's get it. It says in combination from, as far as, both, and, with, then it says, what is it, minute or minimal? It says from. Then it goes on to say of time. Okay, letting you know it's for a time span. Okay, it says even to, until, unto, till, during, end. Okay, letting you know it has an end. It says of degree, even to the degree of, even like. Okay, then moving forward, it says conjunction, until, while, to the point that, so that, even. So clearly, when we look at the phrase forever in Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4, there's clearly a different context from the phrase forever in Jeremiah 3 and 12. Okay? Because remember, in Jeremiah 3 and 12, it said what? That Yahweh would not keep anger forever. But then in Jeremiah 17 and 4, it says that he shall or he will keep that anger forever. But, you know, to the average person who doesn't go into the actual language, it would seem like a contradiction. But since we actually went into the blue letter and we saw that there's a clear difference between the phrases forever in both of these verses. Okay, there's a different context. One literally means for eternity, and the other means up until a certain point. Okay, so in Jeremiah 3 and 12, when it says that he will not keep anger forever, that means he won't keep anger for eternity. Okay, but when you go to Jeremiah 17 and 4, where it says that we kindled a fire in him that will burn forever. Okay, that means that anger is going to be up until a certain point. Okay, he's going to have that anger, but up until a certain point. It's not eternal. Okay, that's the difference. And this is why it's so important to do as the Bible says and study to show thyself approved. Okay? So now, let's go back into the scriptures and let's get an example of this particular phrase, forever, dealing with this context, meaning up until a certain point. Okay? Because remember, when you look at that phrase forever in the Hebrew, when you go to the concordance and you see a concordance number in the middle of the phrase forever, putting emphasis on the word for, okay, that means that it's not a literal forever. It's not for eternity. It means it's up until a certain point. Okay, at a certain point, it's going to come to an end. Okay, so let's get an example of that. All right, so going to the scriptures, this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, starting at verse 45, and it reads, Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. Now here's verse 46, and it reads, And they, talking about the curses, shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Okay, so when you look at these two verses, when you're dealing with the context, it's talking about the curses that was placed on the children of Israel. Okay, and in verse 46, it lets us know that these curses shall be upon our seed forever. Okay, now let's look at this phrase forever. In Deuteronomy 28 and 46, let's get the concordance number for it. And let's see if there's an emphasis in the middle of the phrase forever placed on the word for. Because if it is, that means that forever in this context means it's up until a certain point. Okay, that means it's not eternal. Okay, so let's go into the blue letter and let's see if that's the case. Okay, so going to the blue letter. Here's Deuteronomy 28 and 46 in the blue letter. And would you look at that? Look at the phrase forever. Okay, there's a concordance number between the phrase forever. Okay, placing an emphasis on the word for. And we already established that when you see this, that means that forever means it's up until a certain point. There's a time span on it, okay? It's not eternal, okay? So when you see this, when it says that the curses shall be upon our seed forever, it means that those curses are going to be on us up until a certain point. The curses won't be on us eternally. And we know this dealing with the Bible, okay? You know, when the children of Israel, you know, is saved by Yahweh and we're placed back in our land, okay? When we're in the kingdom, we're not going to be a cursed people, okay? Those curses are going to be taken off of us because we're going to be given new bodies, okay? New and improved bodies that's incapable of sinning, okay? We know that those curses are a result of sin. Okay, so it's going to be a literal impossibility for us to sin. Hence, those curses won't be on us anymore. Okay, in fact, those curses are going to be taken off of us and placed on our enemies, which is all the other nations on the planet. Okay, so we see the concordance number here between forever is Strong's H5704. So let's recap, okay, because we went over this already, okay? And it's the Hebrew word ad or odd, right? So now let's scroll down and let's get the outline of biblical usage. So scrolling up a bit, and again, as we see here, starting from the top, again, it says, as far as, even to, until, up to, while, as far as. Okay, so we're not going to read the whole thing, but you get the picture. Okay, it again, in this context, when you see the word forever in Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 46, where it says that the curses shall be upon our seed forever, it simply means up until a certain point. Okay, it's not eternal. Okay, so now that we've established that, let's get the phrase forever where the opposite is true. Okay, let's get the phrase forever where it literally means for eternity. Okay, never ending. Okay, and we know that it means for eternity when we see the phrase forever, and there's no concordance number between the phrase forever. There's only emphasis placed on the word ever. Okay, that literally means eternal. Okay, so now let's get an example of that. Okay, so this is the book of Exodus, chapter 3 and verse 14, and it reads, and God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. Okay, so again, I'm not really going to open this can of worms, but this is the verse where people get confused and actually think that the Most High's name is actually I am. When you translate that in Hebrew, I am that I am is Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya. But this is not talking about the Most High. Okay, we're going to see in the next verse that he actually tells us what his name actually is. Okay, in verse 14, this is really dealing with the angel that Moses is speaking to. Okay, that's the title that angel is going by in verse 14. But in verse 15, we're going to see the name of the Most High. Okay, so let's get to it. Verse 15, and it reads, "And God said unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel." Now notice it says the Lord, but again, the word Lord is in all capital letters, indicating the name Yahweh. I said this in a past video. Whenever you see the name or the phrase Lord in all capital letters, okay, that's really the name of the Most High, which is Yahweh. Okay, so it says Yahweh, thy power, or Yahweh, the power of your fathers, the power of Abraham, the power of Isaac, and the power of Jacob hath sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Okay? So as we see more towards the beginning of the verse, like we've already established, you see the word Lord in all capital letters, which it really should say Yahweh. The name Yahweh was there in the original Hebrew manuscripts. Okay, so you have Yahweh right there, right? And then towards the end of the verse, what did he say? He said, "This is my name forever." So Yahweh is his name forever, not Ahia, not Yahweh, not Yahuwah. Okay, Yahweh is his name forever. Okay, so now let's go to the blue letter and look up this phrase forever in Exodus 3 and 15. Okay, and let's see if there's a concordance number between the phrase forever, because if it's not, that means it's literally for eternity if there's no emphasis placed on the word for. Okay, so now let's get the answer. Okay, so going back to the blue letter. Okay, and this is Exodus chapter 3 verses 14 and 15, right? But we want to take a close look at verse 15, more towards the end of verse 15. Now, would you look at here? Look at the phrase forever in verse 15. There's no concordance number in the middle of the phrase forever. Okay, there's no emphasis placed on the word for, meaning what? That this literally means for eternity, never ending. Okay, so when Yahweh said that this is my name, referring to his name Yahweh, when he said this is my name forever, that was literal. Okay, he literally meant for eternity, never ending. His name is Yahweh forever. Okay, so looking at this concordance number, again, there's only emphasis placed on the word ever. Okay, let's look at that concordance number again to refresh our memory, which is H5769. Okay, and here we have it. That's the Strong's 5769. Again, it's Alam. Okay, that's the Hebrew word, right? So now let's scroll down again and get the outline of biblical usage. Okay, so scrolling up a bit here, and we have the outline of biblical usage, of course, and it reads long duration, antiquity, futurity, forever, everlasting, or ever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual, old, ancient, world. Then it says ancient time, long time of past. Then it says of future, forever, always, continuous existence, perpetual, everlasting, indefinite, or unending future, eternity. Okay, so we get the picture, right? When the Most High said, Yahweh, this is my name forever, it literally meant for eternity. Okay, so what we're seeing is even the translators understood that when you see the phrase forever here in the Hebrew, sometimes it's literally forever or for eternity, or sometimes it's actually for a specific time span up until a certain point, but it has an ending. Okay, so now that we've established that, let's go to the book of Daniel and let's get an example there. Okay, an example that's very interesting. Okay, so this is the book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 18, and it reads, "But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever." Okay, so we about to have fun with this one because there's something to point out here. Okay, so of course it says that the saints of the Most High. Now the saints, of course, we know are the children of Israel. Okay, nobody else, right? And you can reference that to Psalms 50 and 5. What else? I want to say it's in Psalms 148, if I'm not mistaken. You brothers can correct me if I'm wrong. But it clearly lets us know that the saints of the Most High are the children of Israel. Okay? But let's actually go to the blue letter and let's look up Daniel 7 and 18. And let's see what we got based on the understanding that we have thus far. Okay? So going to the blue letter. This is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 18. Now, let's look at these phrases forever because the phrase is there more than once. Okay? And this is dealing with the kingdom. Okay? Yahweh Shai's kingdom, in which we are joint heirs. Okay? And what does it say? Okay? You see the phrase forever? Now, I know some of you may be getting confused here because you're looking at the phrase forever and you're actually seeing the concordance number in the middle, right? Which indicates what? Up until a certain point. Okay? But don't get discouraged because there's a reason why it's being repeated here. It says forever, even forever. Then look at how the verse ends. It says and ever. Okay? It doesn't even say forever. It says and ever. Okay? That right there is an indication that it's never going to end. Okay? But why before that does it say, or does it have the concordance number in the middle of the phrase forever there? That literally means up until a certain point, right? Based on everything that we just went over. Okay? This verse literally actually gives validity to what's called the New Testament. Okay? Now, why do I say that? I say that because when you read in the New Testament about Yahweh Shai's kingdom, it's stated that it's going to be for 1,000 years. So that would mean up until a certain point because it's giving you a time span, right? But we know, even though it says 1,000 years, it doesn't end there. We know that Yahweh Shai's kingdom is literally for eternity. Okay? So even though it says 1,000 years, we know that it's never going to end, which now makes sense why Daniel chapter 7 and 18 is worded the way that it's worded. Okay? It says forever, even forever and ever. That's why the verse ends with and ever. The word for is not even there. Okay? Letting us know that it's going to be perpetual. Okay? So let's look at that word ever and the end of this verse, and let's get the concordance number there. Okay? So this is the Strong's concordance number for the word ever in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 18. And the Strong's H5957, which is alarm. Okay? So now let's scroll down a bit, or let's scroll up a bit, right? So first, we're actually going to look at the Strong's definition. Okay? And it reads, alarm, or Aramaic. It says corresponding to H5769, and that's what we've actually been reading for the word ever earlier. Okay, so it's pretty much the same word. Okay, meaning the same thing. Okay, and it says remote time, i.e., the future or past. Watch this, indefinitely. Do you see that? Okay, remember, this is dealing with the kingdom, Yahushai's kingdom. So this is letting us know that Yahushai's kingdom is going to be indefinite. That's how long it's going to last, indefinitely. Okay, it says often, a verb, forever. It says forever, and it says lasting, old, right? So now let's scroll up a bit more and let's get the outline of biblical usage. Okay, so scrolling up a bit here and looking towards the bottom of the screen, this is the outline of biblical usage, and it reads perpetuity. Okay, meaning it's perpetual, never ending. Okay, that's what perpetuity means. Okay, it says antiquity and forever. Okay, so this is dealing with the kingdom. Okay, it's going to be perpetual. Okay, it does not end after the first 1,000 years. Okay, it continues on. Okay, it's everlasting. Okay, it's perpetual. Right? So now we're seeing why it's so important to study to show yourselves approved. Okay, as we're instructed in the Bible. Okay, to study to show yourselves approved unto the Most High Yahweh. Okay, you have to labor in this word, right? The scriptures tell us what? That the Lord loveth none but he that dwelleth with wisdom. Okay, that's in the Apocrypha, right? So now that we've established that, let me give you a perfect example why it's very, very important to study to show yourself approved, okay? Because you might have, I'm not even going to say, well, yeah, it's still a scoffer, but you might have the Christian that comes along. You know, I got to get on the Christians from time to time. They might come along and they might pull this verse, okay? Which is Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4. And it reads, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. Okay? The indignation, that's righteous anger. Okay? So we'll read that, and you know the Christian will read that. Then what will they do? They'll go into the blue letter and they'll look up this word forever in the blue letter concerning Yahweh's anger against the children of Edom. Okay, so let's take a look here, right? So this is Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4 in the blue letter. Okay, now when you go down and look at the end of the verse and you look at this phrase forever, what do you see? You see a concordance number in between the phrase forever, putting emphasis on the word for. Now, we already established that when you see this in the Hebrew, okay, it's an indication that this is not eternal, or it's not for eternity. It's up until a certain point, okay? So now here comes the Christians, okay? The Christians, they will read this and they will say, aha, right? They think they got you, okay? Because what they're going to say is, well, you see, the Lord doesn't, have anger towards the Edomites forever. Well, this is where studying to show yourself approved comes into play, okay? And I would pose a question to anybody who comes with this argument, okay? How can Yahweh have an eternal anger for a people that's not going to exist for eternity? Somebody cue the Jeopardy music. Let's take a look at this, okay? This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1 and verse 18. And it reads, "And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them." Now watch closely. "And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh hath spoken it." Pause. Okay, so this is the point I was making, okay? There's a concordance number in between that phrase forever, indicating that it's up until a certain point. Okay, the anger he has for Edom, meaning it's not going to be forever. Well, that's because these people are not going to be around forever. At a certain point, there's not going to be a such thing as an Edomite anymore. Okay, they're going to cease to exist. There's not going to be any Edomites. So he can't have anger for a people that's going to cease to exist. Okay, how can you have an eternal anger for a people that's not going to be around eternally? Okay, the other nations are going to continue on. Okay, that the other nations are not going to come to an end. Okay, now each individual in the other nations, they're going to die off, but the point is that they're going to continue to have offspring and continue to go on. Their nation is not going to come to an end like the nation of Edom. Okay, so this is why, okay, he's going to have an anger up until a certain point, and that's up until the point that they cease to exist. Okay, so this is why it's very important to study to show yourself approved. Okay, because people will try to pull an argument like this thinking they have a point when they don't. Okay, but anyway, I believe this is actually a good place to end the video. I believe I made my point. And of course, the title of this video is Forever, Forever, Ever, Forever, Ever. Okay, and of course, it's obvious why I actually named the video the way I named it. Okay, of course, the video was inspired by the two verses in the book of Jeremiah, which was Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 12, and Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. Okay, the on the surface level, certain people may look at that and believe that it's a contradiction, because again, in Jeremiah 3 and 12, Yahweh said that he will not have anger against us forever, right? But then you go to Jeremiah 17 and 4, it pretty much says that he will have anger against us forever, okay? So we had to get the understanding of the term forever in the Hebrew. And, even the translators understood that in certain instances, the word or the phrase forever literally means eternally. And then in certain contexts, it actually means up until a certain point, but it comes to an end. Okay. So with that, of course, and as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ruach Kwadash. I want to thank all you brothers and sisters for tuning in. I hope you all were edified. And until next time, Shalom, family.